All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the pre-market show. Hope everyone's having an amazing morning, and I hope you had a great day yesterday. All right, a lot of exciting stuff as we been having this week, obviously. So we're looking at the spot here. We're getting a little bit of some good news, a little pullback, some little relief, I guess, of what's happening here. Nice little bounce. We're up 5.6. So interesting way to end this Friday the 13th. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, Carlos. I'm doing well. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody.
Yep. Looks like I'm having some audio issues. Just want to make sure if I lift the gain here, if that sounds any better. All right. Hopefully that sounds better. Still bad, still choppy, guys.
You're clear to me.
Okay. All right, guys. So
You're
if
perfectly clear to me. It sounds like a personal problem there.
yeah, yep. If you're having issues, definitely reload. I put up my gain a little more, so you can even hear my mouse clicks now. All right. Hopefully that's not too high. All right, guys. So Norm, give us a little bit on the spy. What's going on there? What's happening? Obviously more news hitting the sports world as of now. People are, canceling events, canceling season. That's obviously affecting stuff in the market, and also even more important, freaking people out a bit. So give us what's going on, and if any news on why the market is reacting actually in a positive way this morning.
Well, so a couple of times we've hit the pre-market limit down on the futures in the last few days. Today we hit limit up, 5% up is what we're sitting right now. So the futures are halted there at 5% up. The SPY ETF still trading, indicating almost 6% up now, 5.8% to be exact. So I guess that's good news on this Friday. Yesterday, obviously, we had the biggest drop since God, what, 87, something like that. It's just massive sell off and halted again on a 15-minute circuit breaker halt level one yesterday. I think it was what 10 minutes into the open, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So this morning, 5.7 up. The Fed came in middle of the day yesterday and announced a whole lot of measures to inject liquidity in the markets. I think that's really what had freaked people out, with bond yields earlier in the week plummeting to below 0.4%, and now they're back up close to 1, which is a good sign that things may be normalizing a little bit, stabilizing a little bit. I had mentioned to you guys and on Twitter that I thought maybe this market might take break for a couple of days. And I don't mean the weekend, but they might find a reason to shut the markets. They could always use coronavirus if the market just kept going down, down, down with no relief. Well, maybe that's not needed. We'll see. But so that's where we're sitting. That measure by the Fed really was just a start. There's also, as far as legislative news, the looks like the House is working on a realistic bill that might get somewhere. Nancy Pelosi is negotiating with Stephen Mnuchin all day yesterday, and apparently they're coming close to something that they can get passed probably today. Um, that having been said, just a reminder: there's no halt on the way up in during market hours. It's just futures that do that. So if we hit 7%, which is possible, who knows, there won't be a halt on the way up. They only do that on the way down. So today we've got import price index that came out just a few minutes ago, and the biggie I think is going to be consumer sentiment for March, and that'll come out at 10 a.m. Eastern. So about an hour and a half, excuse me, half an hour into the market open.
Yep, excellent. So guys, we have again, as expected, a lot of green on the screen when the SPY is doing the showing some kind of positive bounce here. Obviously, up quite a bit this morning. So as it has been dragging stocks down, it will do the same and drag some of these stocks right up. So let's start with the bottom. Let's start with some of the ones that are red this morning. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing almost all week, guys. We're not going to go through this entire list. It's probably easily about 40 tickers in here, mainly all in the green. So we're not going to do that. But we will look at our favorites that we've been watching. You know, the CCLs, the United Airlines, the NVIDIAs, AMD, Bank of America, just the usual suspect that we see. Tesla is up nice today, 8%. So we'll look at those, and then we'll go right to you guys and see what you guys like this morning. Anything that might have a catalyst. Or anything that might be moving independently of the market, which is very difficult to do. Norm, when do we start earnings season? When does that kick off again?
I don't know the exact date, but it would usually be about the 20th ish, 15th, 20th of
Mm-hmm.
April. So that's when the banks will start. One other note: I now have a cube mate at my home office here. My wife's company yesterday sent everybody home to work. So because of that, I'm no longer in such a crazy rush every morning, and I actually can go through this list of 80 stocks or whatever it is on the gappers more efficiently than I normally. Usually I can handle it, but the way it's been the last few
Mm-hmm.
days, couple of weeks, it's been really tough. But I've had more time in the mornings to parse over this, so I've got some goodies picked out today.
Yeah, excellent, man. Can't wait to hear those. So we'll pick a few out of these, and then we'll definitely get right to your list, Norm. See what you got going for us today. All right, let's take a look at the ones that are in red this morning. The one I like off the top of the list here is work, because work is not involved with like APT or INO, which we know have been gapping up very drastically. With when the SPY goes down, these two have been popping up. Obviously, they're directly being affected by the coronavirus in a positive way when things are bad. But work, on the other hand, this is Slack, and they are down today 2.4. Any news, specific news on work and why they'll be down on a day that everything else is gapping up?
They had earnings last night, and they actually. Let me dig into my notes here. My notes are long now because of this craziness, but
Mm-hmm.
they actually so they had a loss of 16 cents a share, compared to last year was 29 cents. And analyst, I believe, had expected 20-cent loss, so they beat estimates. They were up from last year. They just didn't. Their home run went out of the park, just not quite as far as expected.
Mm-hmm.
And they also talked about positive impact of coronavirus, people working from home, and kind of helping their product get out in the corporate world a little bit faster. So it was really all good news. This was down 22% after they announced earnings, and they are about to go green. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought this might be an all day grind upward, and it's already made that move. So really good stuff there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a very strong bounce. This is this pre-market again, nice big drop, 20% as you mentioned, and where we just tipped our toe into green here might be strong and stay above green. We'll see what happens there. So this is my favorite one by far. Out of any ones that were sitting in the red, now this is going to be going green. It's not showing here anymore because it's below, it's under that 2% plus or minus that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Let's see what it does here in a couple of minutes as we get back to it. Let's take a quick look, guys, at APT and INO. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but APT, guys, as we know, has been very active, gapped up yesterday, sold off, and INO also has been very active, gapped up yesterday, huge, did a nice little pop here, did have a good trading pre-market, intraday action. So if you look at INO, again, you had a nice little drop here, nice little pop. It'd be back to the VWAP. It did trade somewhat well, and a lot of people are taking advantage of these moves, these type of swings on INO. And so I'm not going to be focusing on those today. Again, I personally have not traded any of these APT or INO or any of these other stocks that are somewhat pharmaceutical companies that they're not on the low flow side besides APT, but they are trading like low flow stocks. They're very volatile. They're very whippy. They got this seesaw action that I just don't want to be involved in. So for that reason, I'm not watching these
So
two, and I'm not going to put it on here.
one
Go ahead.
thing on INO, because it's been in play a ton recently,
Mm-hmm.
they actually had earnings last night,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a wider loss than expected. This is almost unimportant because nobody's trading this because of earnings right now.
Yeah.
This thing is in the toilet on its. I mean, it popped up heavy on all this viral stuff, and then Andrew left Citron. Came out and said that essentially what they claim is having some kind of virus cure or vaccine or have some sort of treatment is completely bogus, that you can't develop it in 3 hours like they said, and it'll go back to 2. It was wild that day, dropped a lot, came back up. Now they had earnings, so it's a little bit of that, but a lot of this is just what claims that they've made.
Gotcha. So I know here, guys, again, it's got some news behind it. I'm personally still not going to watch. I think it's just too much of a risky stock. And you're right, Norman, with that type of news, just bogus news created this pop, you can see could not sustain any of it and gave it all right back. And we're gapping down, say, 13% on it. All right, let's go over to this list here. So I just want to go to the top. I want to see what's up here. We do have some cruise ship lines I can see on there gapping up huge. Obviously, these guys have been taking a very huge hit. You got one, two, three, four. What else we have in here as far as cruise ships? That's the only one I see so far. So Norm, just a quick overview on these cruise lines and why they're obviously they're reacting with the SPY, but they were kind of reacting pretty strong this morning.
Uh, Maybe I'm blind. I'm not seeing any specific news. I've looked at several of them, uh, and I think maybe they're just kind of bouncing a little bit on this fundamental, on this technical drop, and people finally coming in to buy a little bit, which gutsy to do because I don't know who's going on a cruise here in the next 18 months at least.
Right, right. Well, yeah, that's the thing too, right? They're bouncing up on SPY News, but we know, for a matter of fact, that their financials are not going to be looking good anytime soon. So, out of this list, guys, I'm going to keep one or two. I'm going to keep right now NCLH. We'll keep that one. Has some good
The only
volume.
thing I can think of on
Yep.
that is these guys are going to have a serious hit to cash flow.
Yeah.
And some of the drop, because I mean, think about, if you think about their business, they buy these massive ships that
Mm-hmm.
cost a fortune. They take out loans. And part of that is, they have to have the cash flow to be able to pay that. There might have been some concerns, and the Fed injecting liquidity will help them access credit markets to be able to take care of some of those liabilities and during a time when their cash flow falls short. It's the only thing I can really think of on that.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense for why that will be happening here on these stocks. I do have two that I like so far this morning. NCLH looks very good, great pre-market activity, good volume, and CCL has been amazing to trade, good volume this morning as well, great pre-market activity.
And just one note, if
Yeah.
people haven't traded these before, CCL and CUK are the same
Mm-hmm.
Carnival Cruise Line. CCL is the common shares and CUK is the preferred or voting shares, I believe. So usually it trades on lower volume. I would just pick CCL if I were going to trade it.
Yep. We do have some. We do have Oxy here, which has been one of the most popular oil tickers to watch. Right, this morning they're up 21%. What is your take on this one, Norm? And was this one that's on your list to watch today?
I don't know. It's possible. If I'm going to watch an oil stock, it probably will be Oxy. Oil's up a little over 5% last time I looked. So that's part of what's popping these oxys on here. It's the highest gainer. That's why we're hitting it first. But you've also got Halliburton, HAL down on there, PCG, Energy Company. PBR is obviously, it's the Petrobras, it's Brazilian oil, a few other oil companies. So Oxy, um, not only does it have oil up, but also Carl Icahn's one of its investors, and he quadrupled his stake earlier in the week buying this big dip. So that's given it a little bit more fuel.
Yeah, I do like the Oxy setup too on the daily chart. We have a nice big gap here. We've been consolidating, find a nice level off of 12. People are buying it up, and if the SPY is going to show some strength today and strong for the weekend, we can hopefully see some kind of breakout towards this high of this day here. So I will keep Oxy on here, guys. I'm not too much of a fan of oil stocks, but the way the market's been trading, these have been creating some really good moves. So if we got our eye on the SPY, we got our eye on Squawk. I've been seeing a Squawk audio as well and seeing how things are breaking out. We can take advantage when these opportunities show up. But on a regular, normal basis, again, we wouldn't watch this stock. Volume is very low, doesn't trade very well in the intraday, anyways. All right, so those are the ones that I'm gonna just point out. Norm, let's go over to your list, see what you like this morning, and then we'll go over to the chat and see what these guys are watching as well.
Well, so I'm going to throw a couple of your way that don't have the greatest volume right now, but I think a lot of the stuff that has excuse me, has the volume is really just trading up with the market, most of it, which doesn't mean I'm not going to watch some of it, like Tesla, Roku, for instance. Those were a couple of good trades from yesterday. I'll have my eye on those. Two though that actually have some catalyst. are JBL, Jabil Circuit, which they they came out with some info uh, last night, I believe. Their second quarter results. I haven't dug through it a ton yet, but um, I'm gonna look through that, and if I have any more, I'll throw it your way. The other one though is Overstock OSTK, which is reporting this morning, and
Mm-hmm.
as of a last look, I didn't have the info on that, but those two usually move pretty well, so I'll be keeping an eye on them.
Yeah, I do like OSTK. It does move well. Doesn't have great volume here, but a nice pop this morning, up 14%. All right, folks. Again, we have a lot on here. I know there's some more favorites that we like to watch. I'm just going to take a quick look at AMD, see what that is up to this morning. We got some great volume, 1.8 this morning. A million shares traded so far is up 8.3. So we know these stocks that have been, again, really strong and are now down because of the coronavirus and the market dropping are going to kind of slingshot a little bit and just rally with the way the market is at the moment. So I like AMD for a possible to watch. Let's look at American Airlines, see how the airlines are doing. They're bouncing back here, but not as aggressive as we're seeing some of these other stocks. This one is up 10%, but you can see based on the drop, the percentage that is coming back here is not as great as we're seeing on these other stocks. So American Airlines is one that we can keep an eye on. I have CGC on here. This one doesn't have great pre-market activity. Most of the volume sitting on here, so I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but doesn't look all that great in the pre-market at the moment. Let's take a quick look at Macy's. We got a retailer here that's popping up as well. Not great pre-market activity neither. So again, not going to be focusing on that one. So let's go to you guys. Let's see what you guys have this morning. Let's head down over to the chat and see what you guys like.
Oracle had earnings last night. I didn't mention it because it beat by 1 penny. It came in at
Mm-hmm.
97 cents versus 96. They had some good news on their cloud business. It may trade up. It just didn't, for some reason. Well, not for some reason. It isn't doing much in the pre-market. It's terrible. Somebody had mentioned that. That's the reason I didn't mention that one.
Yeah, I see that on here. The pre-market is really not all that great right now. Volume is pretty light. It is up 10.6, so it does have a nice pop here. But again,
It
we're not seeing a lot of movement on it.
Yeah, it is a NYSE stock, so that's fairly normal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know if it's going to do anything with that narrow miss or if it's just gapping up with the market, really.
Gotcha. Let's
Or
look at.
not miss, excuse me, narrow beat.
Mm-hmm.
BA is definitely Wingnut is nailed that one. BA's hugely in play,
All right, let's take a look
bigly,
at
if you will.
BA here. So BA this
Yeah,
morning we do have, yeah, it's great pre-market activity for BA. It's very active, 353. It is up 11.6 as of right now. So we got some good movement out of that. Again, BA is a higher price stock. Well, it was actually, it's down quite a bit. I mean, it's trading at 172. This thing usually was trading at 340. So again, down huge this morning. We know this stock is hopefully eventually going to bounce back big. It's one that we could definitely keep an eye on here this morning. Got a good pre-market activity. Let's take a look at Bank of America and then another one on there. So Bank of America is again, it's been trading well, guys. The intraday has been moving pretty well. Yesterday we had a couple of moves on there as well. Had a choppy start. It did settle in. We had this crazy pop here in the afternoon. You can see that on here. Just a huge pop. A lot of stocks did this around this time. Again, right now pre-market's a little bit choppy. We've seen better in the last couple of days of much cleaner pre-market activity. It's definitely one to watch. It's the banking stock that you can keep on here. I mean, I try to keep a little bit of everything. While we got some vacation cruise line ships on here, we got some AMD. We have our Bank of America, and then we have some other stocks that are moving based on earnings, like a work, and also I believe it was a JBL has some news as well. You mentioned Norm and OSTK, so we got a little bit of
yeah.
everything, just in case things get moving. Let's take a look at
The
mRNA.
stuff that would
Mm-hmm.
normally like those, the Adobe ADBE Overstock, Jabil, um, what's the other Oracle? These guys have had earnings or whatever, some kind of catalyst or something. But they're moving worse than just the stuff moving with the market right now. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
the tough thing about picking out what to trade today.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the SPY is up, guys, but it's Uh, who knows if this is a real bounce here? Is it going to stay strong? Are we getting toppy here? Are we going to come back down to this level? You know, anything can happen at the open, and I think a lot of people are going to be waiting to see what's going to happen, and before they start believing this is it, this is the bounce, this is the bottom. You know, this is not the mentality you want to go in with. Obviously, we had a bigger bounce before here, a very nice bounce. We held for a couple of days, and then look at the drops right after that. So again, I think a lot of that's been a lot of these stocks are, like you said, have news or have earnings, and the volume seems pretty light right now. They're being overshadowed with everything else that's going on in the markets. Let's take a look at Docker. I see a lot of people throwing that one out there. And then we'll go. Actually, no. We look at Bank of America. So Bank of America, guys, I'm gonna have it on here. I'm pretty much on the fence a little bit. Might not make my final list, but it's worth having in the conversation. DOCU. This morning, volume is a little bit light. Not sure if there's any news behind it. We are up 16%. Only 20,000 shares traded right now. Now, this one, from my experience, doesn't trade as clean, guys. It can be a little bit choppy. Obviously, you can see on here before the madness, this thing was a little choppy here. Took off nicely, was very strong, and then got crazy with the way the SPY has been. And now we have a huge gap up this morning after dropping quite a bit. So,
Yeah, and that's my exact point in what I was just saying. Dr. Share had earnings last night,
right.
and their pre-market activity, while they've got a 17% gap up, their volume is atrocious.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a Nasdaq stock. It should be trading better than this, and it's really doing nothing. Whereas a lot of these companies with no individual catalyst are just beautiful, pre-market action on them. So
yeah, like compared to like an AMD, which I'm aware of, has no specific news. Look at the volume, look at the action right now. There's a very clean pre-market activity, but we clearly know this is just following the SPY. So again, it's giving you some good volume, but there's really nothing behind it. Everything that has something behind it is really not, especially gapping up, it's not really doing all that much. All right, so we have that. Let's look at MGM. This morning, Stan is giving us that MGM. See what's going on with them. Another one here that's, again, gapping up, 4.6. Not sure if there's anything behind it, but again, just the volume in the pre-market is a little bit choppy right now. It is a NYSE stock, so this could be normal. Again, NYSE stocks tend to have less volume in the pre-market unless there's some real strong, significant news. This one's not giving us much at the moment.
they announced last night that they're not going to be doing a $1.25 million buyback. So that's what's moving it,
Okay.
or that's what's keeping MGM below what the rest of the market is moving. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's still up. It's just not up as strong as it would be, I don't think.
Yeah. JD is another one that, again, has been strong. I think it hasn't dropped as hard as some of these other stocks that are following the SPY. You know, it is taking a hit. We talked about it before several times in the show. It gapped up nicely, has some strong news, and it actually held that news, held that strength. And today we're gapping up 6.3. So again, I think there's another one, a fun one to watch if we can get going. I think this stock does not want to be down here, wants to be more up on that 43 level. But again, the SPY is going to determine a lot at the open. I know that I see a lot of comments on YouTube saying that the SPY most likely is going to fall off the cliff because the volume is not there, right? And it could be. We don't know what's going to happen. It is Friday. We're going into a weekend. And the last several Mondays that we have opened up, Norm, correct me if I'm wrong, it hasn't been great, right? News over the weekend, news has not been great when it comes to this virus. And on Monday, you're seeing the reaction of several big gaps down or big sell-offs coming into the trading week. So that's going to be interesting to see. How are we going, not how we're going to open, but more likely how are we going to close today? Are we going to close strong, or are we going to start selling off a bit into this weekend? All right, let's see what else we got, guys. Disney. So JD I have on here. I like JD. Disney this morning. It is, let's see, we'll get Disney up on both charts here. All right, Disney, great pre-market activity on Disney. Yeah, I like Disney actually. It's got some good volume. Volume starting to come in now. Yeah, I like Disney. Disney's looking interesting. So this is looking great. Any specific news, or is the SPY popping up that's causing this? No, the SPY is not really jumping here.
They're closing all their parks.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Disney's been hit really hard. This has been a super strong stock. This is, once again, people might come in by this this dip. They're closing parks, but I don't think parks haven't really been the driver of what's been pumping Disney up over the last 12 months. It's been their Disney Plus streaming service. So
Yep. All right. So we got Disney there. Let's look at OPK. See what's going on with OPK.
penny stock garbage.
Oh yeah, yeah, nah, yeah. I'm not gonna definitely not gonna. In a situation like this,
Don't
we don't want to
spam the
relook
channel,
at that.
guys. You'll get muted.
Yep, yep.
Don't spam the YouTube. You'll get muted.
And especially don't span it with this neither. Come on, come on. All
Yeah,
right,
it's
let's look at
shit.
something else. GPS, good earnings. Let's see what we got going on here. GPS, again, another one. Good earn. This one has good earning. Thank you for that, Matt. And same situation here. Not a great pre-market activity. You know, it's up 7.1, only 155. It's got some volume in it, but the pre-market is just, you know, usually when we have these stocks and we have earnings, you're getting more activity. We're not seeing that today. So another one on here. I'll put GPS on here. I'm not overall on GPS. I'm not really a big fan of it. It's a retail stock, and retail for me, I just don't have luck with it. Macy's the same way. They don't trade all that clean. There's been a few days where Macy's and these retailers have traded well. We've taken advantage, but overall, they're not the best stocks for me personally. But again, let's take a look at what happens here. What about Zoom? Let's look at Zoom this morning. So Zoom is kind of somewhat stuck in this consolidation, right? It's popped up very well. It has done a new range. It has a great support base down here at 105, right? It's been holding that every dip that we get. It has been able to close above that once we went above that a couple of days ago, right? So it's been staying in this range here very nicely. You could clearly have a level right on there. 114 could be an area where it wants to break out of. Again, the volume is pretty light right now. I would think with more and more companies, as Norm mentioned earlier, working from home, this is one that should be taking off again and hitting some of these highs that we have hit in the past. Now, this is all-time high here for Zoom. It's not hasn't been open for that long. So again, Zoom, this is all-time high for it at the moment. This could be an interesting one. This could be the sleeper of the day. It doesn't have great volume, but if things can get going and break above that 114, this could be one that takes off. Again, with everything, everybody's staying home, you know, all these sports events being canceled, people gonna find ways to connect. Zoom is one of them, work is one of them. You know, all these companies is a great it'll be good to keep an eye on this morning, especially work is up nicely, rebounded very well off of here, so it will be interesting to see what it does at the open. All right, guys, let's look at Uber. Two more. Uber, Microsoft. We'll get to announcements. Let's see what Uber is up to. So Uber is bouncing back a bit here, 811. Again, another stock. Norm, I don't think there's any specific news, but another stock kind of like the AMDs of the world. Apple. We haven't looked at Apple yet. We'll take a look at that next. That got great volume, great pre-market activity. Not as great as AMD, obviously. AMD has almost 1 million shares traded. But another one that you can keep an eye on if you have the space, if you like this stock. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple as well, beautiful pre-market activity as always given the situation here. Has a nice pop. Actually, I do like Apple very much. Pre-market looks amazing. We can keep an eye on this one. I know this list looks very long, guys, but it's a lot on here that we're going to take off before we start doing levels. Like a DAQ. I mean, I'm on the fence and it has earnings, but it has really nothing going on for it. This could be a good one to wait to hit scanners. Bank of America, same thing. So we'll look through this before we do levels. All right, folks, let's get to our announcements this morning, and then we'll come back and do some support and resistance on here.
All right, guys. So quick list of our upcoming success webinars. Carlos, I don't know if you can, but can you pull up the success webinar page? We'll go through the list real quick instead of showing it on here.
Absolutely.
So if you go to our website, guys, and you can just show it, I guess, and show them how to get there, they can take a look. We've redone the website, and we've got, there you go. So you can go to that education tab and either look at webinars or under psychology, because we've got the same thing. We'll just show this. But so next week, and then you've got a description, you've got a time, all the info in there. You've got some, info on the speaker and everything else. So next week, we've got Thor's Level 2. That's Wednesday, the 18th at 8 p.m. The week after that, Wednesday, 8 p.m., is Ed from Average Joe Trader. We talk about trading after hours earnings. I'm really looking forward to April 1st, which is Stephen Goldstein. Great follow on Twitter. If you're not already following him, I believe his handle is @AlphaMind. But he does a podcast that's really good. And he was a trader for 20 years. Are there any more loaded, or is that it, buddy?
No, that's it for now. We gotta load the few that
Okay.
are coming up this
And
afternoon.
then while you're there, pull up the psychology one as well, because I think that one has the schedule on it, if I remember correctly. We have our own in-house psychologist, Dr. Jonathan Katz, which he is a performance coach, works with athletes and works with traders. He's worked with hedge funds, prop firms, all kinds of stuff like that. So we are adding modules to the psychology center right now, but our next psychology webinar is Tuesday, March 24th. These are typically going to be on Tuesdays, unless we have a guest speaker like Goldstein that I was talking about there. And that needs to be fixed because it's not at 8 p.m. Eastern. I just noticed that. That one's at 6 p.m., the Goldstein. So anyway, our next one with Katz is a Q&A. You can put your questions in the forum. AB will post the link to that. And then back to the announcements page. Thank you, Carlos. If you're interested in joining BBT or upgrading to a lifetime membership, we've got our St. Patrick's / March promo going on, 40% off the lifetime membership single payment. Use the promo code St. Patrick's, or ABL can give you the link if you need. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube and haven't been in the room, you can do so at a discount. When you check out for the intro membership, it's 1 week. You can use the promo code premarket24. Doesn't auto renew or turn into any other kind of membership. And I mentioned Twitter. There are Twitter handles. Andrew is at Bearable Traders. Carlos over there is at Carlos M BBT, and I'm at Norm BBT.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Norm. All right, guys, so let's get back to this list. Let's quickly look through this. I'm going to take some off. I'm not going to keep everything on here. Let's start with work. Work, I like. Again, they got some independent news of what the market is doing, bouncing back nicely. Great volume. We'll keep an eye on that. NCLH, I also like as well. So it got good pre-market activity right now. Nice little pop here, rebounding well. This stock has been taking a huge hit as well as CCL has. I might just keep one of these, but they're both really active right now, and I like the way they're setting up at the moment. Oxy will be a good one to watch. Again, we usually don't watch these oil stocks, but this one is great. Has a great consolidation happening here. If we can break out here and get some kind of movement towards the top, some kind of fuel from the SPY helping it a little bit, we do have some levels we can get to. It has a very nice big gap down that we can take advantage of on the way up if we start closing this gap a little bit. JBL, on the other hand, we're not seeing much out of right now. This could be a possible. This got some news behind it, but right now, again, the volume is just really, really light. So we're going to throw it down here as a possible this morning. It'll be a great one to keep an eye on to look to see if this hits our turbo breakup scanners or turbo breakdown. So we're going to delete it from here and keep it as a possible. I'm going to do the same thing with DOCU as well. It's starting to, the gap up is good. It's starting to get a little bit better here, but again, just the volume is so light, right? So it's got some good range, right? I like the way that this range is setting up, breaking above the highs from 2 days ago, right on there. So I like that, but again, it's just the volume is so light right now. We really got to put it on the sideline for a bit here on DOCU. So we'll remove that one this morning. And again, they have some news as well, so we want to keep an eye on it in case they get a nice little pop here. OSTK, same situation, guys. Nice pop here. They have some news behind it, but again, the volume is just so light. But we do want to keep an eye on these stocks that, again, have their own news behind it. Also, because we saw what happened. Twitter obviously had more volume. We had another stock as well that also had, I forgot the name of it, that had good news. I think it's JD as well. JD had a nice pop here, and they traded very well, regardless of what's going on with the market. They were gapping up, and they traded very clean, so we want to keep an eye on that. All right, heading back to this list. So we keep Oxy, OSTK. We took off down to our secondary list. AMD, I'm going to watch, guys. This is a good one. If the SPY is heading in one direction, this is one that you can take advantage of and trade. Same thing with Apple. I'm not going to keep them both, but today Apple is looking a lot cleaner than even AMD is. So I like the way Apple is looking this morning. We'll make a decision on which one to keep out of these two. We'll throw one down on our secondary list. Let's head down over to BA. BA this morning also has a nice little pop here. Again, BA has been beating down, as a lot of these stocks have. Today they're up 10%. They got some decent volume. And for the way this stock trades, this is an amazing pre-market activity. And the reason I say that is because this is a nicey stock. and it normally usually does not trade well at all. But today you're getting a very good pre-market activity, very good bounce out of it. So I think this is really in play. Going to keep this one today up here. Bank of America, I'm going to move it down towards the possible, guys. Again, it might not trade all that clean this morning. That's going to be somewhat on the fence. So for that reason, I'm just going to remove it down here. JD this morning, I like, guys. Again, it's creeping up here nicely. Volume is starting to come in. Hopefully we can continue this type of volume here. We had just 23,000 shares traded in the last 5-minute candle, so that's good, and we're pushing higher here, up 6.6 at the moment. So I like JD. Disney also has a great, very similar to Apple, great pre-market activity. GPS, I'm going to remove, guys. Again, it's a retail company. It doesn't really trade all that well. I know they have some news behind it, but right now, I'm just not going to remove that one. Zoom could be a good possible breakout here. Again, the volume is not great. I'm going to throw it down here as well to look for that in our scanners this morning. All right, we still got too much, so let's just kind of go through it. Work we like, red to green move, excellent. After being down 20%, we're not going to keep both of these. Let's get rid of one. CCL and NCHL. What has more volume? NCHL has a lot more volume, and it's up slightly more, 35%. I mean, that could be good and bad. It could be very extended when we get into it, but CCL is not too far from it. It's 22%. That's also very extended, so that's a big jump. You know what? We'll keep NCHL today. They got more volume. They're gapping up a lot more percentage-wise. Let's keep an eye on this one. But Oxy we'll keep an eye on. AMD we like. BA, guys, is in play, so we'll keep an eye on that. JD, how are we looking here? This is getting better. Good. Let's hope that the volume continues here. We want to build that nice ramp in volume. It's going to create a good movement for us on this stock at the open. Disney and Apple, we got to keep one of these. Between AMD, Disney, and Apple, I just want to keep one. We'll finalize that later on. We'll do levels for all of these, and then as we get closest to open, we'll decide which one we want to keep. All right, guys, so work is nice. Work high of the day sitting at 22, so we'll mark that down. You got your previous day close slightly below that. We're kind of bouncing back and forth between there now. Let's see if we can stay green on this stock. This stock's pre-market low really took a hit, down almost over 20%, as Norm mentioned. Pre-market low at 1764. Towards the bottom, we do have some areas here where we have some support on this one day. That's too much. Let's change that. On this one day here, we also have several days with some support right on here as well. You can mark that down because you got several touches, almost 3 to 4 days touching this 2033. So that's worth marking down. I don't like usually putting these levels so close to each other, but I think this one is an important one to have on your chart. If we go over here towards the left, you can see that 2035, that 1983 playing an important part here. Look at that 2035. You got a lot of days bouncing off of that, and when they lose that level, the next one they seem to like is that 1983. So we have both of those there just in case. Then from there, this is why this thing drops so much in the pre-market. There's nothing in between here. It's just a big old gap here, and you can see that that drop, there was nothing to hold it after it lost this 1983. At least in the recent times. So towards the top, guys, I think you have plenty of levels. We have our high of our pre-market. Let's see if we can test that again and break out of that. The high of the pre-market was the low from, the high of the pre-market is here. The low from 2 days ago is right over here above the high of the pre-market. So see if we can get into that. That also has been tested several times. You can see right on here. As well. Above that, you got the highs of the last 2 trading days, got you covered, but you also have this level here that I like, guys. I'm gonna mark it down, this 2359, and the reason for that is you have several days using that as resistance. You got several days over here using it as support as well. And once we broke out of that 2359, just look at the pop here on this day. Tons of volume. Nice breakout here on this possible ABCD type bull flag here that formed on the daily. So again, I like work a lot, guys. It's got a good bounce here. After earnings, 1.4 million shares traded, up almost 2% after being down so much. That says a lot of this stock really wants to go green. Well, it went green, but stay green today, hopefully. So we're keeping NCLH, but you can watch CCL. You cannot go wrong with neither of those. This one I only kept because it has a bigger pop and it has more volume this morning. Our low of the pre-market is sitting at 1074, so we'll mark that down. And then below that, your cover previous day close, lows from the low from 2 days from yesterday, and towards the top, highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. And here you have a nice little gap area going all the way from 15 up to almost 19, but you do have the bottom of this day here. We got a nice bounce of 1731. You can keep that on there in case we break out from yesterday, from 2 days ago's low, we can definitely try to touch base with this 1731. Right now, great pre-market activity, guys. Volume coming in very aggressively here. Let's see if we can make a new pre-market high, sitting very close to the high from yesterday. So I'm not going to mark the pre-market high. I think the high from yesterday over at 1340 is going to be a more significant level to have on your list. Here is Oxy, guys. So Oxy pulling back a bit in the pre-market high. We can mark down the high of the pre-market, very close to the high from yesterday at 1450, but we'll mark that down because we're getting such a big rejection off of it. I want to keep an eye on this level here in case we come back to it. Towards the bottom, the low of the pre-market sitting at 1285, which is down right over here. So 1285, we'll mark that down. See if we're going to come back down and test this 1285 area. Below that, guys, we're stuck within a very nice range here on this one. We have your highs and lows covering you between this 1280, looks like $12 at previous day close. 1189 to be exact, and then you have your highs here as well. So we'll see if this thing can break out one way or the other. She's giving some back here. Let's see if it's going to get down to that 1286. If it does break out towards the top, because we're very close to that 1450, the next level you have is really supported by two areas here: the high from a couple of days ago and this moving average 1926. I don't think we'll get there today. We're gonna need a miracle to try to hit that target if this stock is going to be strong. Here is AMD. I'm gonna remove some levels. We're pretty much have a lot on there right now. We have the bottom of this day here at 4108. I'm gonna mark that down. Above that, you have your high from yesterday, which is basically right on the high of the pre-market right now. So let's see if we can break out of that. Pre-market on AMD looks very good. It's got some great volume, 2 million shares traded right now, as you can see here. The highs and lows from the last two trading days got you covered as well. Previous day close. I don't think you need to add any more on AMD. You got some really good levels on here, and it looks like it wants to be really strong this morning. Let's head down over to BA. So BA, guys, good pre-market activity. I think this is one to watch because usually BA does not trade as clean as it is now in the pre-market. So when you have a stock that normally does not trade like this, even when it is when it has some news behind it, you usually don't get a crazy pre-market activity like you're getting now. This is great. It's almost like MU, right? MU, you could have news behind it, and the pre-market volume could be 40,000 shares, but you know they're going to get the volume. This one's got the volume, so it's good to keep an eye on. So we have 174.75. High of the pre-market. Your low is sitting at 162.80, so I'm going to mark those down. And then aside from that, the highs and lows really got you covered on BA. Me personally, it might not be one that I watched this morning, but definitely want to have your levels ready in case it hits our scanners this morning as well. JD, it's got some volume, did get a nice little pop here going, but hasn't really done much after that. But what I do like about JD is that it hasn't sold off as many as these other stock. I keep watching that on JD. It did get a nice little drop here yesterday, but again, it's rebounding nice at the moment. So 42, great level here. We got some nice rejection off of this day over here. Let me just change that. Rejection off of this day over here, so I want to keep an eye on that. Also, is the opening and closing of a lot of days sitting in this range right over here, so I want to have an eye on that as well. Also, is a whole dollar number, so usually these whole dollar numbers are good to have on this list, especially when they're being tested like this as well. All right, got some action going on here as well. Some more volume coming in, so this is good. JD could be a nice one today. I'm not going to mark the high of the pre-market right now because it seems like it wants to break that, but there is a level on here. It looks like 4150. 4146 that I'm going to mark, and the reason for that is you have several days opening and closing and bouncing off of that. If you draw a line right on there, you can see several days opening and closing right around that 4142. So I want to keep an eye on that, see what it does there if the pre-market can hit that level. Here is Disney. Also Disney, great pre-market activity as well, popping up nicely today, 7.8, some good volume. Highs and lows got you covered towards the top. You can see that right on there very clearly. Nice consolidation here. You got two great levels, and we're banging our head up against looks like yesterday's high, or a couple of pennies away from it, 99.93. Towards the bottom, just going to mark down the high of, the low of the pre-market at 93.13. I think you got plenty of levels on Disney to go off based on the last 2 days. Here is Apple. Apple's got some good action as well. Probably one of the best pre-market activities that we have this morning. I have 263.33 based on this day over here. The low of the pre-market also down at 254, so we'll mark that down. You got your previous day close, and you have this very, very important level coming in here, guys, which was very close to the low and the previous day close. from yesterday, which is the 200 moving average. So we'll see what Apple does off of that level. Again, it kind of somewhat hit that on yesterday, not quite, slightly above it, but it did stop somewhat there. We'll see what it does here. If you go back on the daily chart, it's also an area where we had some prior resistance. We kind of consolidated after being strong for a couple of days. We kind of took a break here and then broke out of that pretty nice with some nice explosion here and continuing this nice bullish trend that we have been in prior to the Corona news. So Apple is good, guys. Very active. Going to keep an eye on that. Highs and lows got you covered as well. Plenty of that over here on Apple daily chart over the last couple of days, looking really all over the place. It's funny, some of these stocks, like if you look at a JD, just look at the difference, right? Apple is really extended in both ways. If you look at JD, it kind of did that in a very consolidated space, and this is what I kind of like about JD. It just seems like it's not willing to sell off as much as these other stocks, Apple, AMD, and these other tickers have done. All right, some possibles, guys. We're not going to go to the levels on these ones, but I'm going to keep a close eye on them. JBL, Docu, OSTK, BAC, and Zoom. JBL and Docu and OSTK don't have the volume, but they can be explosive today. They have their own news catalyst, as we discussed earlier. So for that reason, I want to keep them on here. Bank of America has volume, guys, 818, but again, it's just a little toppy right now. And it's one of those stocks that could trade very well, and it has traded very well. But today I'm just going to take my luck on these ones that I have up here that are moving very well. Zoom as well. Also, if it can break out of this 115, this could be a good one to set an alert. Set an alert above this level. Look for it in the scanners. If it hits that turbo breakup, you do have a nice little pop. You can get to 120 easily, hopefully, if this thing is going to be strong today. Norm, that is what we have. You have anything else on your end that you like?
No, just I've said it and I'll repeat it, especially, I've read a lot of people on Twitter, newer traders especially, having, struggling. You have massive days right now. You can also have massive losses. You just mentioned Bank of America. Usually I don't touch it with a 10-foot pole because it doesn't move. But that's when you're talking about normal times. If you look at the ATR over the last week or 2 weeks, it's much higher than it normally would be. So you can limit risk in a couple of different ways, or manage risk in a couple of different ways. Either trade things, that typically maybe they're not volatile enough, like Bank of America or GE, to get a move on that's worthwhile, that now actually can give a decent move because the level the VIX is on and the volatility we have in the market. So, you can do that, or, something that has bigger moves. But if you're going to trade Tesla and you used to take 100 shares, maybe it's suitable to take 20 now because of, you had a $5 move previously. Now it's 20. So
yeah.
just some food for thought there.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Thoughts from Mike on the chat here. As you have seen in the past, markets are uncertain. Accept the losses as learning opportunities. Accept the wins as with appreciation. But above all else, let go of thinking about the outcome and put your focus on the process of executing your trading plan. So thank you, Mike, for that. I really appreciate it. Guys, it's Friday. As you know, be disciplined, be well, trade safe, go into the weekend knowing that you did your best on following your rules. You should do that every day, but even more so on the weekends. If you're starting out, we understand that this market environment is tough. As Nor mentioned, it's not easy to trade during this time. So again, don't feel bad if you don't find good, clean opportunities. It's not you. It's just the market at this moment is extremely difficult. We've seen days where we look at the market and it's just chopping all around left and right like it did yesterday. Yesterday was a very choppy open. Yes, we got some opportunities, but if you're just starting out, it's a little more difficult to identify these tough opportunities. So just keep that in mind. Take care, guys. Have a great Friday today. Have a great weekend, and let's hope everyone is safe throughout the weekend with this coronavirus. Again, things are getting a little out of control, but just be smart, guys. Do not panic and doing things that are not smart are a very bad combination. Just keep that aware. Take care, guys. Be safe.
Take care, guys. Trade safe. See you Monday.